Hittin' the Road is proudly sponsored by...
Some bears spend a lot of time preparing their dens for winter. Others just unpack, settle in, and snooze. Learn more about Sleepy Bear's story at travellodge.com.
As well as contributions from G.E. Johnson Construction Company, Charles J. Murphy, Gray Line of Colorado, Laura and Brian Markovich, Elham and Edward Ketchum, Wendy and Mark Pfeiffer, and viewers like you. For many of us, half the fun of shopping for a bargain is the thrill of the hunt, and adding competition only heightens that experience. There is no better place to see this than at an auction. Auctioneers are experts at selling anything and everything from livestock to fine art. I'm Donna Vesey, your adventurista, and on this episode of Hittin' the Road, we're going to look at the history and the mystery of auctioneering, and I'll even attempt to learn the auction chant. Now that's saying something.
I'm hitting the road again, got adventure crawling under my skin, going places that I've never been. I'm hitting the road, I'm hitting the road again. Gonna take along all of my friends, living life like it's just no end. I'm hitting the road, feeling better since I don't know when. I'm hitting the road.
We begin by meeting the president of an auctioneering school from Mason City, Iowa, and get a lesson in tongue twisters. Then head to Colorado Springs and see how one company has made auctioneering a family affair. Next, it's off to La Junta, Colorado, where we get up close and personal at a livestock auction. And finally, we make our way to Denver and enter the world of high-end auctioneering. Paul Baer, president of the Worldwide College of Auctioneering, explains the training that goes into becoming a good auctioneer, and that it's not just what you say, but how you say it that's important.
During the Civil War, even war plunder and chattels were sold at auction, and in order for the person who was the auctioneer to sell those at auction, they had to be the rank of colonel or above. So after the Civil War, the term colonel became an honorary title for all auctioneers, and it is still used today.
So all auctioneers are considered colonel?
All auctioneers have an honorary title of colonel when they graduate from auction school. Yes.
Do they ever get promoted to general?
I don't know if any of them do that, but there certainly some people use the title colonel and then some don't, but they all have the honorary title of colonel when they graduate from auction school.
Do they get a certificate as colonel?
We get a diploma from an auction school, from the auction school that they attend, and it says Colonel Susan Smith or Colonel John Adams or John Jones or whoever that is.
Okay. If I were to show up at an auction, how do I let you know that I'm interested in that piece, that I'm actually making a bid?
If you're at an auction and you want to bid on an item, or someone wants to bid on an item, you can raise your bid card and indicate that way. Many times someone will nod their head. You know, sometimes they'll raise their hand and so on. Just a gesture that says, you know, I'm interested in that item, and would you keep an eye on me so that I can bid and either be the buyer or at least a bidder on it.
Now, I've always heard that if you scratch your nose or touch your ear during an auction that you might have just bought yourself something you weren't anticipating. Is that true? Actually,
if you touch your ear or scratch your nose during an auction, every experienced auctioneer knows that that's not a bid.
Okay.
Now, sometimes for fun, they'll go, the lady that's scratching her ear or scratching her nose, are you bidding for fun? But every experienced auctioneer knows that they're not bidding, that the people, you can tell by eye contact, you can tell by body language, you can tell by just there's an interest in the item that you're selling. And so although people have fun with that, and sometimes people will say sold to the lady with the shocked look on her face, you might say, that's for fun. And all good auctioneers and all journeyman auctioneers, they just know when someone's bidding on an item or wants to bid on an item.
So when did the chant start taking place?
Well, the chant started, you know, many years ago, and you know, it's a combination of words and numbers. And there's the numbers, of course. The numbers are what the numbers are. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. In between, they have what they call filler words. And those are just words and phrases that intertwine with the numbers to create the chant. And they're words like now and dollar, and phrases like would you give, do you want. And then you add the third element, which is rhythm, and you get I'm bidding 5 here, 10 over there, and a $15, 15, 20 here, 25. I would have been a 30 here, and a 35. I would have been a $40, 45, 5, 50 here, and a 55 and 60. And anyway, that becomes the chant.
I believe the chant must be very difficult to learn.
Actually, the chant is easy to learn. It might be a little more difficult to perfect, but the chant is very, very easy to learn. It's just, as I said, a combination of words and numbers and intertwined with a little rhythm. And everyone loves to hear the auctioneer. And one of the things that we do at auction school to help with that rhythm is we do a thing called tongue twisters.
A tongue twister? I'd like to hear one.
Well, tongue twisters, there's a lot of tongue twisters, but one particular tongue twister that's used universally is a tongue twister called Betty Botter.
All right, let's hear Betty Botter.
And Betty Botter is Betty Botter bought some butter, but she said this butter's bitter. If I put it in my batter, it'll make my batter bitter. So she bought a bit of better butter, put it in her bitter batter, made her bitter batter better. So does Betty Botter bought a bit of better butter. And at the end of it, to create rhythm, you put some numbers in there and you come out with Betty Botter bought some butter, but she said it's butter bitter. If I put it in my batter, it'll make my batter bitter. So she bought a bit of better butter, put it in her bitter batter, made her bitter batter better. So does Betty Botter bought a bit of better butter. 10, 10, 20, 20, 30, 30, 40, 40, 50, 50, 60, 60, 70, 70, 80, 80, 90, 90, 90, 90, 80, 80, 70, 70, 60, 60, 50, 50, 40, 40, 30, 30, 20, 20, 10, 10. And that just creates that rhythm, and pretty soon that nice smooth flow of an auction chant becomes available.
What advice would you give young people who would want to be an auctioneer?
You know, as auctioneers, we're in the auction profession, but we're in the people business. And our main mission is to help people.
My name is Jenny Gale, and I'm from Dousman, Wisconsin.
My name is Daniel Romero. I'm from Colombia.
My name's Ashley Ball.
Levi Wheelinga.
My name is Lily Pollard, and I'm from Ontario, Canada.
Patty Clark, Deanne Wood.
PJ Fanberg.
I'm Mark Pollard.
My name's Nicole Piero, and I'm from Massachusetts.
I would say auctioneering is in my blood. I grew up in an auction family.
I came to Worldwide to learn how to be an auctioneer, just like my dad, and follow in his footsteps.
I want to be an auctioneer because I am a second-generation auctioneer.
I have wanted to be an auctioneer since I started working for an auction house over 10 years ago.
It's been very, very interesting. The group of individuals I've learned a lot from.
Making friends here at auction school has been one of the best parts.
It's good for me because it pushes me out of my comfort zone.
And I think that you really bond because you all struggle together, and it's so incredibly difficult at first.
When you're in class and you make a mistake, people don't snicker at you. People don't laugh behind your back. What they do is they encourage you.
And then you get through this experience and it's like, oh, these people could get me through anything because they saw me when I was a shaking mess at the front of the class.
Do it again. That was great. Do it again. And so when you're with 51 people giving you that kind of encouragement, you all of a sudden have 51 new best friends.
It is difficult to learn a chant.
You know, for me, I did come in here with a little bit of a chant.
It's been very difficult. Learning a chant for me has been very difficult. I came in here with no chant whatsoever.
If English is not your mother language, absolutely it's very hard to get a chant.
Instead of singing in my car over the years, I would do auctioneering chants.
Oh, yes.
It's been very difficult getting the tongue to work the way you want it to work.
It's day 5 and still working on it.
I thought I had a chant. I really thought I knew what I was doing when I got here.
And at first you feel like, I'm never gonna do this, and I am so terrible at this, and I don't know how they'll possibly ever turn me into an auctioneer. But then you start to get it and you're like, man, I'm really good at this.
you learn tongue twisters, and you learn number counts. And by using those, you get a rhythm. And once you get your rhythm, then you start adding your numbers, and all of a sudden, it flows out of your mouth and it just shocks you.
When I get back home, I wasn't planning on being an auctioneer right away, but it looks like that might be happening. I'm liking it more than I expected.
Ray Holt, the patriarch of Holt & Associates, and son Kevin have turned auctioneering into a family affair. What made you want to become an auctioneer?
Well, probably several things. Number one, I was raised in an agricultural community, and on the weekends, I went with my grandparents to the local livestock auction. And we sold vegetables off the back of a truck, and I would sit on the side and I would mimic the auctioneer. And my grandfather says, you know, you ought to go into auctioneering. And that was kind of a joke. And so over time, I became involved. And one day, the fellow in the miscellaneous building came down ill, and they didn't have an auctioneer. And my grandmother says, well, Ray can do it, and would you get up and do it? And I said, oh my God, I don't know whether I can do that or not. But I got up and started selling miscellaneous merchandise in the miscellaneous barn.
How old were you?
I was about 13. One day I was clerking at one of the local auctions as an auction clerk, and the auctioneer says, you know, really, Ray, you ought to go to auction school because I think you would make an excellent auctioneer. So I took my vacation and I went to auction school in Arkansas. And
how long was the school?
The school lasted 2 weeks, but it was intense. We started at 7:30 in the morning, and we were still going to school at 10 o'clock at night.
What were you learning?
The whole process of auctioneering, people like to think of the chant, and the chant is only a minor part. We had seminars on business, studying antiques, studying laws, rules and regulations, firearms, how to clerk, and history. And then you would become involved in trying to learn the chant, which is what everybody expected, that's what an auctioneer is. And auctioneering is really based on values. And in order to be successful at it, you must understand values and how to research and identification of product, from antiques to livestock to real estate, whatever it is, but the ability to research and to understand what the market is and where the market's at, and then who is it that you can help.
And what's the most fun for you?
Most fun is seeing the person, whether it be a guy or a gal, that when they're the winning bidder, they hold up their hand, they say, oh yeah, I got it, you know, and then you know it's something they really wanted, and they were successful at doing it, and they participated, and that's the most fun.
Kevin Holt gives us a behind-the-scenes look at the immense amount of work that goes on before anything can go to auction.
It's very complex, especially if you are running an auction house, because the items, first off, you're meeting with your client and consulting about their desires and their goals. Then if you actually do come up with an auction that's going to happen for that client's wares, then you have to start the inventory, the pictures, the transport if it's coming to the auction facility. Once it arrives at the auction facility, it's jotting down everything that is coming in as far as the inventory. Then once the inventory has been taken, then you have to start setting things up at the auction house by allotting those items in. Cleaning those, setting it up, filming, being able to get everything ready to go either online on a sale bill? Are you going to mail out the sale bills? Are you going to be doing other types of advertising with it? And then comes the actual auction event when everything is set up like a beautiful masterpiece of a big spread at Thanksgiving that Mom had put together with all your aunts and cousins and everybody helping to.
And everybody attending the dinner has no clue as to what went on behind the scenes.
No idea what happened in the kitchen.
What's your most favorite thing to auction?
Antiques and collectibles, the reason that I love selling those is because of the story of how did they become collectible. What is the provenance? What is the stories of when it was created and what happened to it as it now is in front of us?
Its journey along the way.
Yes.
How are people encouraged to bid at an auction?
A good auctioneer knows his values, like we mentioned before. And the buying crowd relies a lot on the auctioneer to be able to set the stage as far as what is something worth. Now, this comes in time, comes with knowledge, and it also comes from the side of auctioneering where people need to trust you. So going back to your question as far as the bidding side of things, the enthusiasm and the different brackets of money and also the frenzy and the excitement of getting caught up within the moment all have very major values of people wanting to bid. They are enjoying the fun, the competition, and they get carried away. And that's all what an auction is a big gala event of people getting together, socializing, catching up, and having fun.
At Winter Livestock, John Campbell discusses the many different factors which drive the market price of livestock.
Donna, we deal with, I think the main difference is we deal with what I call a perishable commodity, a commodity that changes in complexion day to day. Livestock changes in weight. We sell cattle here by the pound. Today it will be by the head because it's more of a retail sale. We're selling replacement females and breeding bulls. So they're sold to a different clientele than the bulk of our sales, which are commercial feeder cattle and calves. So it's a little different than say a farm sale or an estate sale because you're dealing with a fixed object. That a vase is a vase, a tractor is a tractor is a tractor. Now it may change based on hours and wear and tear, but essentially it's not going to, it's not growing, it's not gaining weight, it's not losing weight. You don't have health issues, you don't have genetic issues, weather-related issues like you do in the cattle business, and all of those things affect the market. So you would say that the market is probably a little more volatile in the cattle business because we have so many external forces, the value of the dollar, the value of feed, how meat sales are going, product demand, and then you have the weather on top of that, and the price of feed, and the whole complexion literally affects the prices of these animals on a day-to-day, sometimes an hour-to-hour basis. So it's a lot more volatile kind of a market than other markets.
Now in livestock auctioning, do you also do the auction chant?
Yes, we have an auctioneer. We run a little faster here. Today won't be quite as fast because we're dealing with what I call non-professional buyers. We're dealing with farmers and ranchers that are spending their own money. They're buying a retail item that there really isn't an established price. There's a market, but I can tell you within a couple cents of what a 700-pound steer's worth. But when you talk about a breeding animal and how he's going to relate to that rancher's operation, the value from rancher to rancher may vary substantially on that one individual. So we'll go probably a little slower here today because there is so many variables, and the clientele that's buying today is different than professional buyers that will be buying calves or yearlings.
Maren Heinemann points out the differences in the auction style used by auctioneers of fine art auction houses and how research into the provenance of an item is important in establishing an estimated price point. So what's the difference in a farm equipment cattle type of auction compared to a fine art auction?
The auctioneer is going to use a more sophisticated style to acknowledge the bid. People will understand that their bid is being accepted by the auctioneer. There's not a lot of confusion and there's not a lot of chanting, obviously, so people know, what's going on and where the bid lies at the time.
So it's a little bit slower cadence.
A little bit slower cadence. However, we can still sell up to 80 to 100 lots an hour for any given auction, depending on how much activity we have in the room. Online bidding, telephone bidding, absentee bidding. There are multiple different ways in which you are able to bid at auction.
One of the questions that I have is when I watch one of those high-end auctions and you see that you have people on the telephone for phone bidders that are calling in, you have people on the computer for people who are doing online bidding, and then you've got the live auction going on. How do you keep it all straight?
Well, so the auctioneer has a book. It's called the Auctioneer's Book, and it's at the podium. And on that, in that book, we have information regarding the item, the estimate, the reserve, if there is one, a confidential minimum below which we cannot sell it to protect the consignor. That's one of the auction buzzwords, reserve. We also have the absentee bids. We know how many people are going to be on the phone because the phone bidding is scheduled in advance.
Okay.
And basically we have standard increments. So really an auctioneer is just counting. They have to make sure that they're acknowledging all the different bids and the bidding opportunities in the room, but you're essentially just counting. If you're at $10,000 looking for $11,000, bidding $12,000, bidding $14,000. So the increments are standard. And you're just moving forward with those increments until there's only one person left in the room with their paddle up.
Okay. So tell me about your auctioneers. They're more specialist, is that correct?
Well, some of us are. Some of our auctioneers are specialists in particular categories. Like we have the director of our fine jewelry department is GIA certified, and he runs the fine jewelry and timepieces department in Chicago. And he will take the fine jewelry auction, so he may be the auctioneer for fine jewelry. We have specialists in our furniture and decorative arts department who take the sale and who are auctioneers. The director of our consignment department also is in charge of our books and manuscripts, and she will take the books and manuscripts auction. But for any given auction, we might have from 500 lots to 1,500 to 2,000 lots, and we wouldn't use the same auctioneer for the entire sale. We might break that up into sessions, and we take turns, every 100 or 150 lots to call the auction. Now, the auction does start with lot number 1 and goes right on through, but if you have 1,200 lots, you need to break that up into different sessions.
How has the internet changed auctioneering for you?
Well, it's amazing. We have buyers from all over the globe, and so do all the other fine art auction firms.
So it's opened up a whole new world.
Absolutely. For any given auction, we might have 600 registered bidders from 30 different countries.
So Leslie Heinemann Auctions have had some pretty spectacular single owner auctions over the years.
And it's amazing when you're handling unique collections. In Denver this year we handled the property from Caribou Ranch, which was a famous recording studio up in Nederland, Colorado. It was in business from 1972 to 1985, and if you can imagine, almost every major artist of the time recorded there, from Elton John to Frank Zappa to the band Chicago, Earth, Wind and Fire, just tons of great musicians recorded at Caribou Ranch. And the fans have, really, even though the studio closed in 1985, the fans have followed the history of Caribou Ranch. So when we had an auction here in Denver in January, we had buyers from all over the globe.
Wow. What is the most exciting part about being in the auction industry?
I like being an auctioneer. I think that's really the most fun part of, and actually seeing things sell through, and seeing what things actually do bring at auction. Sometimes, there aren't a lot of records to reference, and so you might estimate something low, and then it brings, a ridiculously high number, and you're really excited to see that happen.
An auction house such as Christie's, which has a global presence, is one place where savvy collectors look for fine art as well as a solid investment.
77. And where should we open this? The 63 painting. $48 million to open it, please. At 48 million, 50 million, at 50 million, 52 million now. At $52 million. 52 not here, at 52 million. 55 now, at 55 million. At 55, 58 million, 60 million is bid, and we're off at 60 million and selling. I have 62, I can't go backwards. The bid was 61. 62 million, give me 65, one of you. At 62 million, not yours here. Would you like to come in? You heard it, ladies and gentlemen, 65 with Isabel de la Bruyere here on my left at 65 million. 69 million. 70 million is bid. Hold your nerve, 73 million. You could have tried 74, Isabella, it might have broken. 73 is here, and Francis at 73. One more? Or are you done? And you're out, you're definitely out at $73 million, selling here the Triple Elvis. Fair warning, with you, Isabel. Yours it is, sold at $73 million.
I'm hitting the road again.
I can teach you to do an auction, Chan, and I would love to do that. 5 now, 10 now, 15 now, 20 now, 25 now, 30 now, 35 now, 40. Yeah.
Okay, so let me start again. So 5 now, 10 now, 15 now, 20 now, 25 now, 30 now, 40 now. Okay, you got to be able to count, right?
Yeah, and you're doing a great job, by the way. Great job.
I'm hitting the road.
Hitting the Road is proudly sponsored by...
Some bears spend a lot of time preparing their dens for winter. Others just unpack, settle in, and snooze. Learn more about Sleepy Bear's story at travellodge.com.
As well as contributions from G.E. Johnson Construction Company, Charles J. Murphy, Grayline of Colorado, Laura and Brian Markovich, Elham and Edward Ketchum, Wendy and Mark Pfeiffer, and viewers like you.